I've reviewed a few Lord of the Rings games on this channel, and the one I knew the least about before playing it was Lord of the Rings Conquest. It came out back in 2009 on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and back then I was more of a mindless, online-only gamer playing games like Gears of War. I loved multiplayer games so much that I was like a baby looking for a nipple to suck on. Milky multiplayer games. Little did I know that Lord of the Rings Conquest was actually a multiplayer game, and one that at the time I probably would have loved. Not only would it let me relive some of those epic experiences I got from the Two Towers and Return of the King on the PlayStation 2, but what do you mean? I could have played as Frodo Baggins and played Capture the Ring with my friends. I was a goddamn fool of a toque. So here I am, 17 years later, to find out if Lord of the Rings Conquest is an underrated Lord of the Rings game, or if it truly deserves the 5.5 it got on Metacritic. Let's find out together, shall we? Dun, 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 dun. The music got copyrighted. Dun, 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 dun. Around the time of Conquest's release, we were getting extremely high caliber games like Fallout 3, GTA 4, and Dead Space. If you were an active gamer on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, then you were living in the best era of video games, do not argue with me. And 2009 was an interesting time to release a Lord of the Rings game, especially one that would try to recapture our childhood by giving us an online version of these two games. If you had told me when I was younger that I could experience Lord of the Rings Return of the King, but in multiplayer online, my head would have exploded. Conquest was a huge failure. The online servers were shut down just over a year after release. It could have been the negative reviews that stopped people from buying it, or it could have been that people were moving on from those old school hack and slash type games. We just wanted to go bowling with Roman. Nico, it's me, Roman. That's Jamaican. Nico, it's me, Roman. Want to go bowling? I can't do that accent today. I don't have it in me.
Nico, it's Roman. Want to go bowling?
And the trailer for Conquest looked absolutely amazing. It was basically all three of these games rolled into one. And if I loved these games when I was 11, surely I would enjoy playing a similar style of game when I was 18, right? But one of the reasons these games resonated with us so well was because they let us experience the scenes from the movies. And Conquest is essentially all of this, but on steroids. And in Conquest, you have two main campaigns that you can play through. Two for the price of one. What a bargain. The first is the War of the Ring, which is essentially the main story of the Lord of the Rings. And I mean, you know straight off the bat that this game is going to be all action when you see that the very first level is Helm's Deep. What the hell happened to the other 37.5% of the story? Who cares? Let's just start at Helm's Deep. Conquest just really has no chill at all. We essentially just go straight in the combat, and we're constantly just fighting for our lives. I went from the tutorial to fighting trolls in like 10 minutes. It was insane. Hey, and if you like these types of videos, consider subscribing. We go from Helm's Deep to Isengard and being able to control Ents and having a cinematic fight against Saruman 1v1. Who's electing the way of pain now, Saruman? More like Saruwoman, am I right?
But you have elected the way of pain!
And then we sort of just end up skipping backwards and we're playing as Gimli in the mines of Moria. There's the other 37.5% of the story that was missing from before. Fast forward again to Osgiliath and protecting Frodo from the Nazgul as Faramir. A large-scale battle at Minas Tirith and taking down elephants as Legolas, just like in the movies, but over and over. Being able to experience what it was like behind the gates at Minas Morgul, the home of the Witch King. And then finally, the last battle for Middle-earth at the Black Gate.
I can see you way down. Sam, no!
The game integrates us into the story so well, it doesn't feel forced or far-fetched like in the Third Age where we literally end up fighting against the Eye of Sauron. I still don't know what they were thinking with that. And because you play as generic warriors most of the time, it has a feeling of realness to it. And then you see that pop up on the screen. Would you like to play as the hero Aragorn? Hell yes, I would. Now I'm going to be unstoppable. I was a little annoyed with the fact that we didn't get to pick and choose which hero to play, but instead had to control these unknown people. But it ended up making sense and it was the right choice. Sadly, the thing that this campaign lacks is any real heart and soul. Lord of the Rings is known for having these heartfelt moments. I shed a tear every time Aragorn tells the hobbits that they bow to no one. I cry every single time. But Conquest sort of just skips all of that. It's just constant action. Go, go, go all the time. There is no walking around and exploring Middle-earth or interacting with any of the characters. And no gay love scenes between Frodo and Sam.
Frodo wouldn't have got far without Sam.
We do get a retelling of the story from Elrond, Hugo Weaving himself. And while that's cool and all, it's sort of just dot points of what's going on and why we are here.
Now a garrison of Gondor's defenders keep watch, ever wary. The warriors that hold this outpost secretly hope for Faramir and his Ithilien rangers to return at dawn.
It might not be heartfelt and sobby and no gay love scenes, but it's still incredibly fun to participate in every battle that takes place in all three movies. It's epic. It's epic. And then we have the second campaign, which to me was the far more interesting of the two, the Rise of Sauron. The Rise of Sauron campaign takes a look at the story, but from the perspective of the bad guys and what would have happened if Frodo was actually killed in Mount Doom by the Nazgul and the ring returned to Sauron. The first level is actually us playing the Nazgul and killing Frodo at Mount Doom because he refuses to destroy the ring. I mean, technically I knocked Frodo off the bridge and into the lava, so the ring would have been destroyed anyway, but I'll give them a pass there. Then we slowly take over all Middle-earth. Faramir is killed by the mouth of Sauron at Osgiliath. We play as Saruman as we take over Minas Tirith. And somehow the Balrog comes back to life and kills Gimli as he defends the mines of Moria. Let's just pretend that none of this happened. And for whatever reason, Aragorn returns to Weathertop, where he meets his end at the hands of Saruman.
But you had an exit. Oh, way off. Hey!
And we also get to play as Sauron himself, which is an insane amount of fun. Killing Legolas and Elrond in Rivendell, and then heading to the Shire and killing hundreds of hobbits to unlock the kill 300 hobbits in one playthrough trophy. It's so brutal, but it's hilarious at the same time. I honestly thought that this campaign would feel like a tacked on extra bit of content, but it's a great addition. It was also surprisingly clever with how they used scenes from the movies to tell this story. It actually made sense.
Those who did not fight in this war shall now become the final victims. Their homes shall be burnt,
and the future of their children shall be sacrificed upon Sauron's cruel altar.
Where the game is probably most divisive is with the gameplay. If you think back to the Two Towers and Return of the King, you have combos and leveling, and learning all the combos was a part of the fun. The name of the move would appear on the screen and you felt like an absolute badass when you finally pulled it off. But in Conquest, all of that was removed. The gameplay pretty much boils down to choosing one of the 4 classes each time you respawn. The Warrior, Scout, and Wizard classes have the most basic of melee controls. A low, medium, and heavy attack with essentially just one combo that you can activate. With these characters, the game just becomes a cycle of just waiting for your special abilities to refresh so you could just spam them. I would just spam the same attacks over and over, and as the special hero, I would essentially just do the same thing. The Scout had the ability to go invisible, which was super handy for certain objectives, and he also had the very overpowered backstab ability. But his weapons had such a poor range that using him for standard melee felt like you were controlling a toddler. The archers were great to use. I think I used them like 40% of the time, but the gameplay loop was exactly the same. I would just wait for the special abilities to come back up and just use them over and over again with my never-ending supply of arrows. Other than feeling like an absolute coward, I see no reason to not use the archers in 90% of the scenarios. But by far the best class was the Mage. For starters, it was the only class that could heal itself. You didn't have to run around looking for little bits of green pixels lying on the floor. It was fun using the staff on rare occasions, but really again the Mage only has 3 abilities, but at least they felt very powerful. Admittedly, I was pretty awful at using the Warrior class, which is probably why I hated it. I would either die really quickly and get stun locked, or I was just constantly spinning around in circles like an autistic child. Although it was cool that they could take down trolls. It was fun. The 4 classes transfer over to the named characters, so the Mage class is essentially just Gandalf or Saruman, except the special moves they performed were slightly different. Aragorn had this extremely overpowered move where he would summon those ghost skeletons from the floor. You said you were gonna free us! This is way worse! But the most fun comes from picking which class for certain situations. The Mage, while very powerful, if the area was already overrun, he would get overwhelmed very quickly. Mages were great at stopping large groups of enemies from taking over the area, using his bolt of lightning to shock multiple orcs at once, or use the firewall to cause huge amounts of damage to anything that enters it. Even the Scout, which I hated so much with their little fucking baby arms, were handy when an item needed to be delivered to a certain location. Each class on their own are fairly underwhelming to use, but because you can swap between them during the level, there is still a decent amount of variety with the gameplay. Add in heroes and there is enough to keep you interested. Each level is like an online video game. The missions are still fairly basic, like go here and capture this point. Now defend that area from oncoming enemies. Oh no, Frodo needs help. Make sure he escapes successfully even though he's invisible because he's using the ring. What good am I? Once again, Helm's Deep is a standout mission. Little did J.R.R. Tolkien know that he was creating such a good video game level. Use the archers to stop those orcs with the torches from blowing up the wall. Use Aragorn and Gimli to defend the front gate, just like in the movies. You'll have to toss me. Go on and toss me. And there isn't a bad level. There's just so much going on all the time that you sort of start feeling a bit overwhelmed. Now, I am below the average skill level when it comes to video games. I do have the reaction time of a grandma when she accidentally steps on the gas pedal instead of the brake. I know. But even on medium difficulty, I died all the time. I would rarely fail a mission, but I was constantly tested. I think one of the reasons why this game failed is because there's sort of no point in playing this game on hard. No trophies or achievements, no hidden characters or levels, no XP because there was no XP. Old online games like Rainbow Six Vegas had rankings and cosmetic gear you could unlock. It kept you interested and engaged. It gave you a reason to play over and over. But in Conquest, there is no reason to play more than once. I've watched a ton of footage of the multiplayer modes and honestly, it looks very entertaining. But it sort of reminds me of when Assassin's Creed had online multiplayer. Really fun for a few weeks, but no real reason to stick around for the long haul. This score here is absolutely justified, and I still had a fantastic time playing this game, but still I was a little bit disappointed, and I imagine that's how most gamers felt when it was released. And look, over the next year, I'll finally get around to playing every single PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 era Lord of the Rings game, so make sure you stick around. We're going to be playing Lord of the Rings Aragorn's Quest next, if it arrives soon, because I ordered it off eBay. So hopefully I didn't get scammed. All right, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, see ya.